So I'm trying really hard to be able to get my room done in 2 days. Day one, I spent really focusing on my organization, my flow, like how I wanted my desks to look. Today, I'm putting in all the other little touches that I had before I left at the end of last year. So I'm gonna be spending the entire day here. It is about 10 o'clock and I have until 4. Let's do it. I think that once I wanted to share with you guys 3 tips in addition to the last 3 that I put in my previous vlog on just setting up your classroom. So in this video, the first tip that I wanted to share with you is lighting. I really want you to kind of focus and consider a variety of different lighting options. I remember that when I was first interning, I had so many different teachers. I had teachers that had like lights above on their ceiling. I had some teachers who absolutely they were not about that light life, and they just wanted the plain fluorescent lights that were happening, and everybody kind of had their own opinions. And so as I've just been teaching, I've formulated my own opinions about lighting options that are out there. And I think it's nice, and in my opinion, it's just homey to have different varieties of lamps around the room so my lights don't work for around my windows. I put the lights up at the very top because just from getting to know my students, there are times where it's just, I want to turn the big like fluorescent lights off. Either my head starts hurting, my students' heads start hurting. It just feels so much more relaxed. Now, that's not to say that we stay like that all day, but it is nice to have it as an option where I can keep those lights on and that's it. I also have different areas in my classroom that tend to be a little bit brighter and others that tend to be a little bit darker. And I do that for the exact same reason. So if we end up turning the fluorescent lights above us off, I want to make sure that I'm also tailoring to the needs of my students. So for those students who need to have a little bit more light, they know those areas in the classroom that are going to offer them more light. For those students who like to have it a little bit more darker, they need kind of the quiet space is what I tend to call it. They go to those areas in that classroom. So I want you to think about turning off your fluorescent lights and kind of walking around your room and making sure that you are truly offering a variety of light options as you are setting it up. So even though the lights around my windows don't exactly work at the moment, I really like not having my bookshelves right in front of them. It just lets in so much more light. It feels so much more airy. I may be considering not putting it back up. Okay, so I'm not too fond of heights and this is being a really big booger. So I'm not gonna do all of it on camera. As you can see, I'm struggling. I'm gonna continue to struggle off camera and get these lights up. See you in a bit. So I'm not sure if you guys end up remembering last year, but my lights were like up in the front of the room and they kind of stopped right around where this light is right here. And I just had them going back and forth, back and forth. This year I decided to take my lights and go diagonally. You get that one? That was funny. But I wanted to go diagonally and I really love the way it looks. So now it goes from the front of the room. Sorry, I picked you guys. So now it goes from the front of the room all the way to the back. It looks so good. It was miserable putting it up, but at least now I can say that I have it done. So here's what my classroom looks like with the lights completely off. So those are the fluorescent lights that are off. In the mornings, like early in the mornings, I don't get as much light from these windows, so it tends to be a little bit darker. But I kind of play with it, especially like the kids are pretty okay with it in the mornings, especially because they are exhausted. But as you can see, like over here, I have brighter areas where students can sit and they have plenty of light coming in. If they want to sit in those areas, like you get a ton. Like, I don't know if you guys can see this because it's so hard to see. Like that is a ton of light that's coming into my classroom, and really it's just by like the afternoon, and this is how much light I end up getting. So it's a lot. So I have enough light over here in these spots for my students who need to have extra lighting, and then I have some of these more darker areas where kids can put out like anything on the floor. They can use little like those little lap tables that come from my other teacher's classroom. But they can use those over here in this spot. They have a spot over here that has just a nice little lamp, and then a couple of spots there in the back of the classroom. But I really wanted to make sure that I was offering my students enough lighting, which I think I nailed it, y'all. This is pretty good lighting for me. Okay, I'm very curious on what you guys think about this, so please make sure you're leaving me a comment letting me know what you think, because I'm kind of on the fence. So I had my my red display bookshelf. In the past few years, I've always had it right here in front of my windows. But as I was saying, I really like the fact that I don't have it in front of my windows. I like how much light it is. I like how open it is. I like how there's nothing on my shelves. So what do you guys think about me placing it here? I really hate that I can see through up there at the top, but I think that once I place books like in this first one, this is going to be pretty much covered up. So basically, let me kind of walk around. So basically I'd have my display bookshelves on one side, and then students have then access to their books from their bins on this side. What do you guys think? Does that look awful? Let me kind of back up so you can see it too over here in this direction. Oh my gosh, look at all those books. That's ridiculous. So that's what it looks like. What do you guys think? Does it look good? Not so much? I don't know. I'm playing with the idea. It'll stay there for now until I kind of figure out anything else that I want to do. The second tip that I wanted to offer to you is going to be posters. So you're gonna notice that I don't have a ton of posters in my classroom. In fact, I don't really have any posters in my classroom. Just like rule posters, any sort of like visual posters. I don't really got them. And I do that on purpose because I have noticed that if I don't use it, my students are not going to use it. And a lot of the times, if I put up posters, if I put up sayings, if I put these things up, my kids are not really going to care. They're going to notice it one time and then they're never going to reference it again. So anything that I do put up on my walls that has any sort of visuals or pictures, I need to make sure that I'm referencing them constantly. So like my hand motions, this, like all of these are going to be motions that my students will use on a day-to-day basis because I tell them to use that on a day-to-day basis. My rules are up, and those were established by our first year of students in our MAC team, and we've kind of carried them through. And those are used on an every single day basis. So when I'm noticing certain behaviors, I ask them, are you helping to keep us safe? Are you making sure that you're showing respect? So I reference those rules constantly. But everything else, if I'm not referencing it, I don't really worry about it. Now I will tell you that in kindergarten, I had an anchor chart binder. Y'all, this is like revolutionary. If you have not heard about this, it's fantastic. So I make my anchor charts, and I still make anchor charts now. I just do this digitally versus having it in a true paper binder. But when I make my anchor charts, I keep them up for a week and then I take them down. I don't leave them up in my classroom. I don't post them on a wall. I don't put them anywhere else. What I do is I take a picture of them, and then I will now put them into our Schoology account, which all is digitally, but the kids have access to it, which is what it's important. They need access to it. And then when I was in kindergarten, because we didn't have anything that was digital, that picture that I would take, I would go and print a colored version of it, and then I would print a bunch of black and white versions of it, and I would put it inside of a page protector sleeve inside of a binder. And as I started noticing that certain kids needed to reference an anchor chart, I will pull that binder out, I would take out that black and white copy, and I would give it to them to place inside of their folder, inside of their notebook, but somewhere where they could reference it on a day-to-day basis, because not every kid is going to need that anchor chart. You can show some kids that anchor chart the first time and they get it. Other kids, they need a constant reminder, and that's okay. But I make sure that I accommodate for those students without having to keep them up inside of my classroom to make it look cluttered and busy. So I don't put a lot of things up because I don't really use any of it. And so my philosophy is if I don't use it on a day-to-day basis, then I don't need it. I get rid of it. So really consider that when you are putting anything up on your walls this year, think about whether or not you're truly going to consistently use it. Guys, if you're putting up like multiplication charts or you're putting up something with like the genres, how often do you really need it? There are going to be some kids who need to have a day-to-day reminder. There are going to be others who don't need to have that day-to-day reminder. So make sure that you're accommodating for those students and think outside of the box on how you can make your room look decorative and nice without having to put all of those things up. It's just my tip. Take it or leave it. That's kind of what I'm feeling like. I don't know. So now I'm going to start working on trying to map out my grid and get all of my units in there, at least like try to figure out the units vertically maybe. I don't know. I'm going to figure that out. But I'm going to work on that and see if I can get that done today as well. I'm going to just make columns for each of the units, and then I'm going to cut the columns as much as I need to based upon how many lessons or skills are in each of those units. So here's what I've come up with. 5th grade math is what I'm going to teach. I have place value, addition, subtraction, put it all in one, multiplication, division, fractions part 1, fractions part 2. Now, I also teach algebra. I teach the unit of geometry, measurement, data, all of that gets put in there. However, if you remember from last year, because those units are isolated and you really don't need any prerequisite skills other than like the 4th grade curriculum, I think I'm just going to stick to putting up those 6 units, because I teach the other ones like when we have weird schedule days, or I just need a break from like the normal because the kids are going crazy and I just got to help them out and give them a little bit of something different. So I teach those a little bit differently and I integrate it into the curriculum. So I have 6 units that I have to consider, and now I'm just going to break them up. I went to Michael's just a minute ago, also went to Taco Bell, picked up a couple of tacos. I feel better now. And I picked up some ribbon to be able to staple it up there. I think ribbon's gonna be the best. I kind of played back and forth between doing ribbon or doing like some sort of a tape, like the washi tape or something. I think ribbon's just gonna work. So I'm gonna use ribbon. I'm gonna start kind of figuring out how far apart that I need my columns to be, and then I'll come back to you. One of the areas in my classroom that I'm kind of changing up a little bit because I need the extra seating. I decided that and by the way, if you haven't seen the last vlog that I did that kind of started setting up my classroom, go and check that out. But I got rid of one of my bigger tables, mainly because it was too many tables and I just needed more space to be able to move around. So I still need 4 spots for my students to sit. I have 26 kids, and here's kind of my solution to that, and I need 4. So I have this like whiteboard space. There it is, not whiteboard, but I have like this space back here that I'm gonna turn this into my math board, like I had just mentioned. And I need to clear out what's inside of this like cabinetry area so that I can take the doors off, and I'm going to make this into little seating spots for stools so students can sit back here as well. And it's more of like an independent spot. It's not a collaborative space because you're kind of like isolating yourself. But yeah, I'm gonna clear these out, and I have 2 stools, so all I need are 2 more, and then figure out how I can make it work. Let's go. So there you go. I have a huge mess behind me. I'll show you that in a minute. But the chairs fit perfect. The stools, excuse me. The stools fit perfect. And I think this is gonna work out great. So here's kind of a bigger shot of what that's gonna look like. So 4 kids will be able to sit back here, which will be a nice little quiet area for them. So I don't know. I mean, like, you guys let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on it. I think it's gonna work out really, really great. And just in case you were wondering, this is the mess that I'm left with. Fantastic. Tip number 3 is going to be to consider kind of keeping a very clean and less is more attitude. Over the past few years, I have definitely not lived by this rule. This year, however, I am definitely going to try to live by it. I'm not putting things up on my counters. I'm not putting up a bunch of decorative stuff because I'm going to be honest, it gets dusty, it gets nasty, the kids will break it, they will fidget with it, they will play with it. So I try to now keep a very minimal, clean space. I don't want anything up on my counters unless it's something that I use on a day-to-day basis. Sound familiar? Anchor charts. I don't want anything that I don't use on a day-to-day basis. I don't want anything out that does not serve a particular purpose for my instruction. So I wanted to make sure that this area was really, really clean. It tends to get the most cluttered, especially because it's the student space. So a lot of the times I'll have some different cups over here that offer some different materials that the students can use. There's like paper items. Their items kind of go over here, and then like the turn-in bins that they use. But it keeps it nice and it keeps it clean. I don't want to add anything else because then it's just going to end up looking really cluttered at the end of the day. So here's my student area. I wanted to kind of show it to you guys, but this is what I mean about keeping like your space clean. So like I don't really have much here. This is the mailboxes for my students. This is where they're gonna have their paper items. I will have a couple of cups out here just for additional materials that they can use, turn-in bin, but I try to keep it pretty minimal because I know for a fact that it's gonna end up getting cluttered throughout the day. So I don't wanna add anything else to it. I also have this space over here on my shelf, like right above my books and below the window, where my students will place some things and they like to kind of move their stools around so that they can sit there to get a little bit more like peace and quiet, so they're not around the collaborative spaces. And this works fantastic for my kids. And I wanted to make sure, because I had a bunch of stuff here and I had like the shelf, the display shelf here, and it just looked cluttered at the end of the day. I love how nice and clean this now looks. I think it looks great. But other than that, I'm keeping it simple this year. And so I want you to ask yourself, when you're putting some of these things up, it might look cute, it might be wonderful, but do your kids really care about it at the end of the day? You might want to offer that as a space for your students to be able to put their books, to be able to place their materials. Maybe it's a spot for them to go and sit quietly away from everyone else so that they can focus on their learning, but offer it more for those purposes versus you keeping decorative items. So those are my 3 tips. I hope you enjoyed them. My room at this point is, I'm gonna say, almost done. I have my math board that I still have to finish, but it's almost 4 o'clock and they're about to kick me out. So, and they're not open tomorrow. So I have my math board that I need to finish. I have a couple of things like in my teacher area, which, by the way, backtracking a little bit, but I had somebody comment that why didn't I use the space where I'm doing my math board as my teacher area? I did that my first year and I hated it because the kids would constantly go behind me to get water, especially when I was giving instruction. That was a no-go. I'm just gonna go back to a spot that I feel super comfortable in and I'm happy about, which I'm super happy about that spot. So I have a couple of little spots in my little area over there. I have a lot of those books that I ended up taking out of those shelves to put the stools in that I gotta go through, but I really just want to go through it and purge it. So if I don't need it, I just need to get rid of it. It's kind of where I'm at. But other than that, the front of my classroom is done. I need to get things started ready, getting things set up for my students. So the next like classroomy, like vlog that you end up seeing, I'm going to really focus more on getting student materials ready, making sure I have like their name tags all set up and getting ready for almost like the first day of school. So that's going to be absolutely the next video that you guys are going to see from me. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm feeling so great that it's not August yet and my classroom feels ready to go. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I lost track. Ooh. Hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Also guys, make sure that you're hitting the little bell when you subscribe, because I am going to be uploading some videos here and there that are not going to be on my normal days. So hit the bell so that you can get a notification every single time that I upload a video. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. Maybe a couple of plants here and there because I'm a plant lady and I just love it.